favelas is it's so obvious just watching a television series because it's more moralistic. There's more sort of story and friendship, and the character developments are far more profound in the television series in comparison to the film, which only manages to put across the characters in a sort of almost as like one-dimensional video game criminal to me. That's where the idea of the video game comes in, because it's along with the intense sort of roller coaster ride sensation that you get from watching City of God, because from start to finish it is just one scene after the other. You just look at the cinematographic element of the film, it's like bah, 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 bah. It's like watching MTV. It's some sort of very typical example of an adrenaline junkie sort of television program. It's quite common to see this sort of film amongst. I wouldn't use the example of Tarantino's film, because I'd even argue that Tarantino's films, again, they're not entirely based in reality. The problem with Fernando Meirelles' film is that he is actually dealing with real issues that affect real people who are still alive today and being quite upset about the story that he took from the book, which arguably was exposed by Halloween's. But then after that, transferring it to a film, it can be quite problematic, because then you're taking the responsibility into your own hands as to how you represent what happened in the story, both parts. It's the same when you make a film about Auschwitz or the Second World War. You can still offend people today. You have to be very careful as to how you deal with that material. But yeah, as I say again, the television series is entirely different to the film. I just had such a big shock watching it. And then of course you've got City of Men, which is another film that was based on the television series, which again is even more different and more sort of moralistic, and it tries to engage with the more humanistic side of the favelas and the favela people, to show them that they are like us. They're not that different. They're not violent gangsters who go around shooting each other, dealing drugs. They're real people with real dreams. Yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, very well, thank you.
I thought Alina's question was where the similarities are, wasn't it?
No, similarities and differences.
Ah, right, okay.
Watch it again if you want. Yeah,
press rewind.
Yeah.
So what's the essence, the core that would you say is shared by all three? If there is one.
Yeah. Well, they try to make it, well, it's quite debatable as to whether they make a realistic depiction. But I think one goes perhaps too far to one side of the exposure. What I term as the exposure and exploitation dialect, and the other goes to the other side. Because the book's quite graphic and it's quite well written. It doesn't leave much to the imagination. The problem is with the film, it doesn't develop the characters as well as the book. There's that poetical side to the book that is not transposed to the film. So therefore it just comes across as like a video nasty, as I termed before. Yes, right.
Thank you, George. It was very, very interesting, and I have lots of questions that at some point we will talk about, but I'll just go with two at the moment, okay? The first one is, a lot of what you said reminded me a lot about the debates around testimonial writing. It's a very similar kind of question, the ethical role of the mediator or the producer, or the person that turns reality into a cultural product. And your sort of counterposition of social inequality, social justice, or a claim for social justice, and a cultural commodity. Isn't it somewhere in between? Isn't it a combination of the two? Or do you have strong evidence to say that this is just a marketing ploy to spin off what was originally a social thesis?
I'm entirely in agreement with you there, that you're walking a very sort of thin tightrope when you're dealing with this sort of topic. you have to be careful as to how you deal with this sort of material, because it's pretty much, as you put it yourself, it has to be in between. I can't say that, oh, this is just pure exploitation, but the fact that he takes that material and the way he put it across is my point of contestation. I think he doesn't get it right, basically.
You're right, it has to be done with great care.
He's dealt with this sort of material before. He's a director who has dealt with adverts. He hasn't done much on social marginalisation. He just read Palin's book and thought, oh, that's interesting, I know, I'll make a film out of that. Fair enough. And you look at the films he's made after it, like Blindness. There's nothing to do with lower class society or Brazil or America.
Yeah, but he doesn't have to keep using the same topics.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean he'd necessarily create a reliable representation, what we call a reliable representation, on something that's anywhere near the truth.
I'm going to ask you another question which is related. Is the problem not necessarily the producer, the product, the filmmaker? Is the problem not that in the world market, as it were, which is a very unequal, asymmetrical market, the problem is that the very few products that we get about Brazil are of this kind. That's the problem. That we don't get the heterogeneous, diverse vision that we get of Britain or Europe or anywhere else.
It's slowly starting to change, very gradually, very piecemeal at the moment. But that was why I chose this film. I found that quite problematic. It was the very first Brazilian film I saw in British cinema has to be about the favelas. You know, about Rio de Janeiro. There's more to Brazil than just Rio. No offense, Joel. It's a very nice place. But yeah, that's, you don't see anything about the Northeast. You see very little. There's this like lower city, but that's about Salvador Bahia, prostitution, violence, gangs. Same thing.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no more questions, thank you very much indeed.